because Josh never gets introduced, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him.
Wow.
Several years ago, while I was regretfully not his real estate agent, um, I was able to help Josh as he was shopping for a home, shine light on one of the homes that he was particularly interested in up in Westminster. And it was in a neighborhood that I knew was designed by a guy named Norton Polivnick, and that's pretty much all I knew about Norton Polivnick, other than a few of the other works that he had done in the city. Josh has now jumped full into the restoration of this home. And when I say restoration, I mean he is really digging deep into understanding what Norton Polivnick was trying to do with his house and the 98 others that are in his neighborhood. And at the same time, it has inspired both he and I to do research to try to figure out who Norton Polivnick was, why nobody in the city seems to have identified him as important, which we've uncovered a few of those mysteries. There is still a lot to uncover as we peel away the onion. Josh recently started documenting his renovation up in Westminster on YouTube. He picked up a camera using a gimbal that his mom sent him to make sure he started documenting what he was doing. And he just randomly started posting photos on YouTube, and it has wildly taken off. If you go to any of his videos, they have tons of comments and likes, and I'm actually really floored by how engaged people are with watching Josh in very long form do these renovation videos. But if you go to YouTube and just type in Sunset Lanes, you'll be able to easily find these videos. So Josh is going to share, I think, up to this point, as much as we know about Norton Polivnick, and of course reveal that there's a lot more for us to learn. So the more formal introduction: Josh is senior project designer at Kephart Architects, president of our Docomomo chapter, and is known for his talks and activities related to modernist architecture across the city and state, as well as walking tours that he and I do together. We tag team on that. Josh is also president of the Ghost Town Club of Colorado and participates in roles relating to the education and preservation of those historic sites. In his free time, as we talked about, Josh is restoring a 1955 modernist home designed by Norton Polivnick in Sunset Lane. So I give you Josh Robinson.
Well, thank you. So, Will, as Adam said, this is what we know. And really, a lot of this, I'm imagining that there's a fair amount to this story that we don't know. So rather than treating this as a lecture with a big point or a big idea, this is essentially a download of information about what it is we know for certain that he did. There are a few projects that I think that we could draw the blanks or draw some lines between that maybe he was involved with. Mr. Gass was there and knew Polivnick. So there may be even a few things that come to light even tonight. So this is the man, Harvard grad, Norton Polivnick, son of Mr. and Mrs. Isidore Polivnick of 250 Crown Street, has been awarded a master's degree in architecture from Harvard University. It's in 1946. He was a graduate from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1941. This is something that we know for certain. He's an East Coast guy, interested in architecture. The dates 1941 and 1946 are somewhat significant. This is a photograph at Harvard of the class of 46. It was pretty ecstatic that we were able to find this in the first place. Yeah. This, of course, is the studio, right? We can see the tables back here with student models and drawings and stuff on it. And all of these wonderful young guys intently around Mr. Walter Gropius. Of course, Gropius we know as the big shot of the Bauhaus, right? Leader. And the founder, yes. And most of us are familiar with the Bauhaus. Is anybody not so familiar with the Bauhaus? We could talk a little bit about it. Germany, right? This was prior, architects were learned in the Beaux-Arts fashion. We drew things, blah, blah, blah. This was a completely different approach, and it was truly beginnings of real modern education in the world. And this is the fellow that was responsible for it. Of course, this is the Bauhaus. We're talking integration of craft, all sorts of big picture modernist ideas, and the proliferation of them to many, many, many students. One such student here, Marcel Breuer, who is also an instructor at the GSD and a partner and really mentee of Walter Gropius. But they worked together. When they came to America after the Nazis essentially shut down the Bauhaus closes, Gropius, Breuer, and many other Bauhaus folks come to America and start to infiltrate all of our academic systems. These two were certainly among the most prominent. Breuer, of course, probably the thing that most people associate him with is this wonderful chair, of course, designed at the Bauhaus. The tubular bent steel and all this kind of thing. What a wonderful picture. God, if to have studied there would have been unbelievable. What a time. Back to this class. So this is 1946. Well established here in this country. We know, despite the fact that most of these young guys, their heads are turned to us, so we can't tell who is who. One of them is certainly this fella, I.M. Pei. So Mr. Pei is just a student at this point, and he is also a member of that particular class. But interestingly, he's also a member of the class 41 from MIT. So Polivnick went to school with him both in undergrad and graduate. So they would have certainly had some form of a relationship. I think that's pretty, I think I'm pretty safe in saying that. This is Mr. Pei's, or young Mr. Pei's, thesis project. Gropius was quoted as saying it was the best one that ever came out of the program. And so he had it published, and here it is in one particular journal. It's this museum, beautiful project, all this wonderful stuff. But Gropius was certainly very proud of the work. Now, I can tell you, me myself, if I would have went to school, both undergrad and graduate with Mr. Pei, I might be a little bit jealous. But here it is. Another student. Now, this isn't the class of 46, this is the class of 47, so the year after, but certainly in the studio at the same time. Paul Rudolph, pictured really when he starts to get his feet under himself here in the mid-50s. And of course, Paul Rudolph would become really a major player in the architecture scene in the 1960s and 70s here at Yale in what's now called Rudolph Hall. And this is the architecture department, which he chaired for a number of years. And Mr. Gass actually got to study under him for a little bit. He did at Yale, not at Yale. He did a number of beautiful projects, which are really right now just only being appreciated. A lot of Paul Rudolph's work just wasn't understood during all the brutalist sort of expressive concrete stuff, and lost a lot of his work. Some of the early stuff that he did in Florida, the Sarasota school, which Tom talked about a couple of years ago.
I think we lost his beach cabanas in the hurricane.
In the hurricane. Yeah. Beautiful work. And this is him really kind of right after he leaves Harvard.
That wall of jealousy windows.
It's incredible, isn't it? And of course, this house, the umbrella house, didn't have its umbrella for many, many years. It was just the box. It's finally been restored. Other folks in this class, I wish I knew who they all were, was Chuck Sink. Mr. Singh was also there. So Chuck Sink is really a regional modern master. So he's here in Denver and actually ends up working with Mr. Pei pretty shortly, I believe, after graduation. And, you know, his body of work is really significant, and he did a lot of really incredible work. His master, really the kind of the project I at least think of when I think of Chuck Sink is this building, One Cheeseman Place at the end of Cheeseman Park. Beautiful, beautiful building. Of course, this program isn't necessarily about Mr. Sink or Mr. Pei. There was a lot of stuff going on at that time. I can't really imagine him going to school and studying under Gropius having looked at my work. And at the same time, Gropius and Breuer and all of these other influential people practicing and witness to this kind of thing being brand new. This is Marcel Breuer's house in the museum garden for MoMA. Big picture kinds of things in how we might live as the suburbs continue to grow. Beautiful environments, sliding doors, so all this kind of stuff that we know so well, and it's all brand new. Other things that maybe influenced Polivnick during his time in school was certainly this house, the Gropius house. There's lots of accounts of the Gropiuses hosting parties and bringing students over, several parties a year. And Mrs. Gropius saying that, gosh, for many of the students, this was their first time actually experiencing a modern home. In the late 40s, maybe you had never experienced that. And being a part of this environment, even if it was for, you know, your professor likes you over for dinner. Beautiful spaces. Most of those pieces of furniture in that space are still there and are prototypes from the Bauhaus days. Another important thing happens to Polivnick here. The Museum of Modern Art, New York, the Organic Design Exhibition, 1941. This was facilitated by Elliot Noyes here, pictured probably in the late 50s. There were many folks that participated in this, and this was the result of it. It was essentially, how might we live in a modern environment, live today? And a number of pieces, lighting and furniture were exhibited here, many of which became rather important. Polivnick was invited to participate in this. And one of these light fixtures, somewhere in here, I don't know which one, is his actual submission. He didn't win anything. He got an honorable mention, but his work was on the floor. So somewhere in here is one of his lamps. I don't know what one it is. But some beautiful things, and a few things that would be particularly significant moving forward, like this chair. Of course, these two were really the stars that came out of that exhibition. Charles Eames and Eros Saarinen, pictured here at Cranbrook. And they were best friends, of course. This was one of their submissions, a ergonomic sort of chair that would explore the possibilities of bent plywood. This was the finished design. They worked with the bent plywood to try to figure this thing out. The problem of it was that it couldn't do what they had designed for it to do in drawing only. The plywood couldn't bend in two directions. It could only really bend in one direction with the equipment that they had to do it. They had already submitted their drawings. Everybody was really excited about the drawings, and they had to produce a full-scale mock-up. And to their dismay, the mock-up came out flat, and it looked horrible. So they had to upholster it. One of them was shown with half of the upholstery, and the other one was a high-back version, fully upholstered. What this taught them, and the both of them referenced this through the rest of their career, that they wouldn't design things without understanding the properties of the material that they were intending to use. Material had to be integrated into it. Couldn't design purely based on drawing. And of course, the result from both of them, here, Saarinen's womb chair of a few years later, I think 49, I think that came out for Knoll. An experiment in what they had been doing just a few years together earlier collectively, now in fiberglass. And we know the sorts of projects that Saarinen would do later, the TWA, these sexy, beautiful curves, it looks like flight, all this kind of thing. And then, of course, Charles Eames experiments through many years and all of these wonderful chairs and things that came out of the ideas that they started in that first exhibit. I love that this advertisement from Herman Miller says, in 2061, one of these chairs will still be famous. Which one?
They're not wrong.
According to them, it will be the bottom center. So the original recipe, the bent plywood potato chip chair. $35 for $35.
You know, but this is $1961.
That's a lot of money.
That's 400 today.
So a lot of great ideas were coming out of this class, and Polivnick, who's the talk of this program, there he is, was witness to those. Doesn't he have gray hair? I mean, it looked like it might be 4 inches thick. There he is, just after graduation, and his lovely bride. I believe this was their wedding photo. Their engagement photo or something.
They didn't tell me what he said.
Anyways, so this is 1947. This house got built. He leaves the East Coast and comes to Denver and builds this house.
What room out here?
Well, the wife had some family out here, and apparently they lived with the grandparents for a few months. Acquired this piece of ground and built this wonderful house. We can see the mountains beyond. God, what a great sight. This is directly behind the Welsher Arms apartments. So I actually I could see this house from my house.
Did you know that at the time?
I didn't know until I bought my house. And anyways, we can talk about it later. This is what he built, a beautiful little flat top house. And you might think that this photograph is taken exceptionally high. We're basically looking at the roof line at eye level. Maybe the photographer is taking this to capture the mountains beyond, but that actually isn't the case. The roof line is at 7 foot. This house is very, very low. This is it from the rear. You can see it a little bit more with the scale of the furniture. This is a very low and small house. It looks a lot larger than it actually is. Nothing is painted. Everything is sort of this unfinished, untreated lumber. Very pretty and rather small house. That's after he moves here. We don't know who he's working for or what exactly he's doing until 1952. He partners with this fella, Henry Baume. They created a wonderful partnership that they would maintain until Polivnick's death. Polivnick really was the design guy in the firm, and Mr. Baume was the technical side of things. drawings. He ended up becoming rather heavily involved with a number of organizations around spec writing. They bought this building, the Swedish Mission Church. This is at 1225. Gosh, where is this? This is Bannock Street. 19th century building. This is a little bit before they would have bought it. And this is a photo of what Polivnick did to it. This is before it got demolished, so this isn't in its period. And of course, the Kirkland sits museum on this site today. And this is the interior of the office pictured in the middle 50s. After they had, great. Just after they had occupied the space, these wonderful Luan panels, acoustic ceiling tile, and these recessed square cans that would sort of become a Polivnick feature in a lot of his work. And there's one of Charles Ames' chairs there, brand new, out of the box. Architectural record, July of 53. Starts his office in 52. This is a guy with a lot of connections, right? He's getting first in architectural records in 1953. And for a project, flexible units, Norton Polivnick, architect. The increasing trend to automobile travel for business or pleasure trips and family vacation poses a relatively new problem for motel designers and operators to meet the varying demands of types of room arrangements. The architect of this motel project has devised an economical solution by providing a basic unit that lends itself to a variety of furniture layouts. The units have been combined into a well-organized design that also includes a restaurant, a group of shops, and recreational facilities. An existing service station occupies the corner of this site. So here we see what's planned here and sort of the arrangement that Polivnick is working with. This is a language and sort of
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You know that site?
I don't know that site now. Because this wasn't ever built, was it?
You're telling me it was never built. It's the reason that I have a house there.
No. Really?
Who's the owner?
Morgan, because that was the nursery that.
The Wilmore Nursery, Griefbauer's Nursery.
Very interesting. But Polivnick did a project for him eventually.
Building on the corner, that's not the way it came out, but that building is still there in the corner of Harrison Lane Exposition.
Very interesting.
They applied for a zoning change in order to build that motel. I've never seen this.
Really?
This is a revelation. I had no idea. Can you- But they applied for a zoning permit. Yeah, the whole neighborhood rose up in anger. They had developed the neighborhood. Momos. And they lost all their friends. And they had to re-subdivide the west end of that site
Yeah,
into three residential sites. Which had
to appease the neighbors.
Huh?
To appease the
Well, they
neighbors.
tried to, but they didn't.
And your house is on one of those sites?
My house is right at the upper left-hand corner.
Oh, that's good. That's neat.
Get to be designated, Alan, yeah. You should add this to your landmark designation. Smell one at your
You
piece.
should. I'd never seen this.
Put the bulldozer away.
Well, there you go.
How about that?
That's very neat. So while Polivnick is apparently causing all kinds of issues over here, he's doing a number of custom single-family homes. And while he's getting published at the national level in architectural record, he's also getting published quite a bit in Empire magazine. This house, cedar shake exterior, gives the home of Dr. and Mrs. H.L. Wilson a country look. The ceilings are high with exposed beams. This is sort of the kit of parts that he built his own. Cedar shakes, these 3 ganged windows, and this sort of window package that he uses quite a bit throughout his career. This is the interior space. Brick fireplace wall separates living room from the kitchen. Big ideas in open planning. Really a beautiful space. I'm not sure if this is still here. I've looked for it. I have no idea. I suspect it's probably gone. Open beam ceilings, open soffits, atriums, outdoor spaces. Terrace is reached from the house through sliding glass doors. Or no, plywood panels form 2 of the walls. And something else he starts to experiment with here is perforated hardboard. It is a relatively new product at this time, at least nationally available. And using it for cabinet doors and diffusers for lighting fixtures. I think is sort of interesting. Other homes that he's doing at the same point, down in the Welsher neighborhood. A beautiful building, house that's still, as far as I know, absolutely complete.
I guess it had some structural issues, like an atrium or a sunroom to be would sold it, but yeah.
This is the interior of the space. These are the photographs that are at DPL from their, what's left of the office's archives. This Luan paneling. I don't know what these little white buttons are on this wall. I'd love to know. I don't know what they are.
Is that a greenhouse? It was open at the roof.
Looks like it's an atrium at the front door.
Terrarium.
What I think is really interesting, and I haven't seen very many people do this, is there's always this problem with the rafters or beams extending beyond the building envelope and beams twisting, especially when they're only, well, these might be 3-bys. Without a consistent fascia to hold them secure, they tend to twist and they look rather unsightly. What Polivnick is doing here is strapping the underside of them together with what looks like a metal strap. I hadn't seen that detail before. At least not that I remember. And I think it's rather interesting. I can imagine hanging plants and things from it. Sort of neat. This atrium at the entry. Another house, the Morris house. Again, another one, I don't know where it is. Pitched roof, modern with clear stories, pony walls and stuff like that. Look at this a little bit deeper, and there's a little more sophistication to this kind of house. I've got to imagine that this brick wall with the rake joints passes through this curtained piece of glass here. Look at how he brings another panel inside the house. He's really blurring the lines between indoors and out. That panel's unnecessary, but gosh, does it make for a neat condition seeing this transparency blurred.
But it's less sloppy than Sutherland's detail.
Yes, it is. Swing doors at his closets. This is a move he uses a number of times in his production houses, which sort of makes for some issues with rather small spaces and these big 32-inch doors swinging in. The master suite in the same house, the Morris house, there's his square cans that he tends to use. They were rather fashionable at the time, but they're in darn near all of his projects, even into the 60s. Look at these wonderful built-ins and this crazy bed and all this kind of stuff and this open vanity and makeup area. How glamorous is this? This weird wall on the angle. Beautiful space, pony walls. January of 54. This is still just a few years in. Architectural record. Vertical expansion proves advantageous. Remember this house. That's his house. So that's the little flat top. We see now that there's other homes around it. We can't see the mountains anymore. Lawns grown in. There's, plantings, a big hedge of bushes trying to shield this house. This is vertical expansion. And we get a peek of about what the house looks like on the interior. Here's the ground level. It shows in record, the original house was dwarfed by new neighbors. Addition of second floor, restored balance. Exterior walls are cedar, pre-dip shakes and vertical tongue and groove siding. Lot is 300 feet by 82.5 feet wide and mountain view to southwest. Angled placement of house permits terrace facing view and gently increases privacy of outdoor living areas. Although horizontal rather than vertical expansion was intended when house was planned, ground floor changes were minor. To make room for stairs, entrance hall was enlarged by moving door from inner edge of flagstones here to edge of flags to present position, and space between heater room and garage, originally storage alcove, and garage became the stairwell up to the second floor. And we can see this wonderful little 900 square foot house sitting on top of this little flat top. And it actually resembles a lot of his production work that he was doing at this very same time. This was the effect. We see the rather low ceilings and the ground level. I love that in this photograph of this wonderful knoll couch that Polivnick is missing a button.
Must have kid.
He did.
The houses, they like to pull this button off too.
And what he talks about here is on the ground level, while he was using this siding material that was on portions of the exterior of the house, on the upper level, on second floor, all finish is mahogany. So based on his other work, I'm imagining it's just more of the 1/4-inch Luan panels. You can see the wonderful open kitchen.
I know how many kids he had.
I believe 3. This house would also be featured later in the Treasury of Contemporary Houses, selected by the editors of Architectural Record, which would be the very first version of record houses come out every year going forward. So that home in that article is featured in the original recipe. The production houses, the very same year that this is being published. The Carey Holiday Homes. I know a lot of you have heard of those. They're in Harvey Park. There's 2, and Adam, if I'm missing anything, jump in. There are 2 variations of this. There's the first phase of it, which is a lot smaller. They're mostly 2 beds. There's also an
2 and 3 bed.
model that is the 3.
Well, no, the first phase had 2 and 3 bedrooms. And then the executive line had 3 and 4.
3 and 4. This is one of the smallest versions or variants. And of course, these are brick. And look at the environment that they're placed down in. God, there's nothing there at all. Wow. This is the other version of the 2-bed, I believe.
The turned version.
Oriented differently to the street with the roof also turned. Same orientation and plan. But you get a varied street scene from this. This is the larger version.
3 bedroom.
And we can see it's getting prepped here for maybe a marketing shot or something. I see there's a light tied up in the carport screen,
The carport looks really familiar.
doesn't it? So does the whole house,
Yeah.
right? These are on the drawing boards at the same time as Sunset Lanes.
How big would that first house? It looks tiny.
I think they're 900, right?
Maybe 850.
They're really small. The open beam, the rafters are expressed on the exterior.
Lives larger.
Oh, absolutely. Now, this is the larger model, and it's, picture this house flipped. And that's the floor plan. Flipped and backwards, but it is the same house. You can see the carport utilizes sort of an outdoor living space. Its indoor counterpart, the same grid, living room, dining room with a flexible accordion wall here to an all-purpose room, which accesses all 3 bedrooms and the kitchen. So you really got a very clearly delineated floor plan, one that is about private, and one that's about public. It's something that we'll see in a lot of his work moving forward. There's also isolation between the different rooms. So you get your stacks of closets. So utilizing the clothes for their acoustic quality to get a little bit of privacy in these rather small homes. They also have fireplaces.
Where's the furnace?
It's in the fireplace is in the front.
It's probably in the storage, Daryl.
Oh, the water heater and the heating plant.
So they had,
Oh, no, it's at the end of the closet.
so these homes had optional basements. So obviously in the basement model, it was down to the basement. I think the non-basement models had crawl spaces and it was probably in the crawl space.
Oh,
But the water heater was on the main level, which is shown there on plan.
Adam drew this plan.
Based on the original.
You can see a rather compact, efficient galley kitchen with a service door. Pretty neat plan.
And on the basement models, the staircase steals space from bedroom 3, taking a very small bedroom and making it even smaller.
Oh, wow.
And then the all-purpose room, I will say, when you tour these houses is, I don't know, I had many mixed feelings. I almost bought one of these houses. I have many mixed feelings about that.
It is a
Better
nest of
setup.
doors, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, no, it's not a hallway. It is not a hallway, but it is odd. It's kind of weird.
It is at best an all-purpose room. This is a motorhome photo of a 2-bed. So not the floor plan we just looked at, but again, in a compact, a very efficient 8x8 kitchen with a rather small dining area. The living space is just to our left, but you notice that there are some upgrades to this beyond the brick exteriors. The steel cabinets and the Thermador appliances, which I believe were stainless steel. What's the difference we see here? This is the this is the one with the family all-purpose room.
So we're in the all-purpose room looking toward the kitchen.
The 2 beds have sloped ceilings that follow the rafters. The larger model has flat lids.
Actually, there's 2 versions of this model.
Does
Um,
one have the ceiling?
This example has the flat ceilings. There's another version of it where the living room, dining room that you through that opening is bolted. And there's glass gable underneath that.
Sort of unfortunate, right?
But this part of the house would have been flat ceiling.
And you can see that little compact kitchen with the service door. And then, of course, the natural wood panel doors and the Space Maker folding door here to provide some separation from the living area from the public.
So what could you use that all-purpose room for?
Well, it looks like whoever has decorated the model is using it as a breakfast or a dining space, with the table clearly pushed all the way against the wall. I would imagine most people might have used this as a place for a crib or a playpen. Little kids playing in there. It'd be a great place to, that would make it outside of the nicer, mom and dad side of the floor plan. And you also got to remember Marcel Boyer is preaching from the rooftops while Polivnick is at school about how does Boyer put it? Not the bifurcated point. Yeah. The parents are separate from the kids. He has a name for it.
By nuclear.
By nuclear plant. So this is Polivnick's version of the bi-nuclear
Yeah,
plant.
this floor plan won an award. Oh, and you may be going into that.
So, competition for best homes for families with children. The house which won the award is at 2044 South Utica Street and is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Russell. It was designed by Baume Polivnick, Denver architectural firm. And of course, the folks that were building these certainly capitalize on this. See Denver's award-winning holiday homes. Here's why the Cary holiday homes were selected by Parents Magazine as the best homes for families with children and were chosen for the award of merit for residential design by the National Association of Home Builders. And we see these bullet points showing how great these homes are. Brick construction, 3 bedrooms, architecturally designed as opposed to traditional comfort, smartly combined with warm contemporary styling. Boy, that's some wordsmithing there. Ample wall space for flexible room arrangement. Fluid open floor plan design featuring the family room. Work-saving kitchen with modern steel cabinets, exhaust fan. Priced at $14,000 to $15,000 with very attractive FHA financing available. No down payment. That's. And of course, they came in colors. These are the 2 models open for examination.
And there were actually 3 models. This photo was taken from the corner house.
So this is the carport of the
The
bigger one.
award-winning one that was in that photo that had the rocks in the driveway.
And you can see how small these houses really are compared to the people. Right? That's not a big house.
What year is this again? 54.
And despite the fact of all this push of brick on these houses, damn it, one of the models has no brick on the front elevation, and it's the only one.
Isn't that the one that sold a few years ago, Adam? But
Mhm.
no brick.
Here is the second phase.
Yeah.
So after the success of these initial plots, these ones were built. And this is a different floor plan. And this is something of a floor plan. You can see these big swing doors kind of getting in the way of these literally 10 by 10 rooms. The stairs sort of crammed in there. I really am curious about the head height clearance here. An 11 by 17 kitchen with this funny jog to grab the door. This feels like a product that, from an architect's perspective, I would imagine a client has a lot of saying in what's going on here, based on some of the work that we'll see later, that I think is a little more. There's a lot of gymnastics going on here. And I don't know why. Even the 2-bed, the original recipe, is really kind of clean and simple. It makes a lot of sense. These are a little heavy-handed. They're very beautiful homes.
They are. And the reviews I've gotten from people who grew up in them is that they live very well. They were great houses to grow up in. One of the biggest things they fixed in these executive models is the kitchen in the original line is extraordinarily small. So the kitchens are very big in both of these executive models.
With steel cabinets, again.
Yeah.
The previous
Times
ones
with
were
higher ends GE steel cabinets.
We toured a really original one, what, 2 years ago, Adam? The one that was right by the lake, and it feels like the floor plan,
That one was the previous floor plan.
it still walks super nicely though.
you know,
They really do.
you're entering in here into a hallway with a door into another hallway. A door through into the living room. A very clearly defined door with a pocket into the kitchen. I think there's probably a lot of feedback from folks that were walking the first building.
Walking or living in or.
Yeah.
And what I find peculiar about this plan is the 2 bathrooms that are next to each other in the same hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually they only use one pocket door too, given all those doors.
Yeah.
Like, a few other places they could have used it.
Wonder why they didn't use sliding doors on the closets.
I don't know, Alan.
I don't know. That is how
And
they
it's-
they
and
do
it's-
swinging doors.
It's something he's doing even in those custom single-family homes, and I don't understand why.
Gropius would have yelled at him for that one, I feel like.
So here it is, priced at $17,500 to $19,800. Big jump there. New through and through, exciting from every point of view, and located in Denver's fastest growing brick. There's that brick development. Imagine a home that features all of these wonderful things and brick typed in big bold letters. Here it is. Okay, that's great.
Wearing heels.
Who's wearing heels?
The housewife is wearing heels.
I don't think she even has feet in this drawing.
Easy, got little tiny pointed feet.
Look at prices. And look at the prices, a big difference from the initial product. These are not cost effective.
Those are pretty high for 55.
Um,
The starting price is at the highest end of the Cliff May homes at that same time.
what's interesting, and you can make it out even in this drawing or in this this advertisement, the rendering. This is natural wood. So the siding on these homes, or at least some of them, wasn't painted. It was actually stained. So this is actually a wood accent. And one of them still had it until fairly recently.
Everything was
This is the first run
And these
Yeah.
are the same homes we saw the people walking in and out of.
right there.
Yeah.
And these came, Adam and I found these in the office's archives. You can see just by shifting the product. Now, while we do have a variety of floor plans through here, there aren't that many floor plans. But there's a few different window configurations.
There's only 2 floor plans, but there's several different elevations.
And many different, turning the building this way and that makes an enormous difference.
Josh, I can't help but notice in the last 2 images, the overhead electrical utility. One thing that I was struck by when I moved here is that it's all under most in the residential areas. I assume because of the weather.
No,
Most of it's actually exposed.
The new stuff that's going in, yeah, new stuff.
My place was built in 77, the whole district's underground. But, so I mean, okay, but it's sample size, I would not beat that.
At that time,
Yeah,
there's some, and I can't remember, this is getting off topic, but there's, I don't remember what project it was for. There's an example of Sternberg writing in the city about allowing underground utilities and the virtues of it, no ice buildup.
No tree.
I don't want things to be up in the sky either. Let's come up with a variety of excuses to put it under.
Colorado Springs.
Or Genesee. Later on, get the bulbs.
But it sort of spoils the view.
is it underground now?
No.
No,
No, it's not, okay.
Still above ground.
most of Denver is above ground.
Is that street unusually wide?
No.
It's wider than city streets had been before the mid 1950s.
Yes.
But for Harvey Park, that's a standard width street.
Okay.
And these homes don't look like they're occupied yet. Maybe the one with I guess with the lawn and the tree. There's still something is going on down here at this house with a dump truck and a load of something over there. And of course, in this, the community street is asphalted.
Yeah.
But the main street is just
A street in the foreground is Jewel Avenue.
Really?
Yep.
which was so heavily rutted, right? There are many complaints about the.
There are stories of the ruts in Harvey Park before it was finally paved. All things that led to the ultimate rules that builders had to put in paved streets before they could build house one. That wasn't the case in the 1950s.
You'll also notice, even at the $20,000 price tag, and while these homes weren't that, these were the more cost effective. Notice that there aren't driveways. There's sidewalks with a gravel driveway adjacent to it. All of them.
You noticed Polivnick's house had a gravel driveway.
This is the experience of one model that's worth looking at.
This is an example of the 3-bedroom with the vaulted ceiling.
Notice that and while I don't think you can see it in any of these photos here, there is some variations that don't have a carport that's part of the integral primary roof of the building. It's in a flat roof, and you get these kind of funny slot atriums that happen where the carport roof adjoins the main building. It's unusual. But they're beautiful little homes. And I think it was really wonderful to find these photographs, especially color. We could even see the fences.
What is that fence material? Is it like a crooked?
No idea. It's like a farmer lab.
1954. At the same time, another community, Sunset Lanes.
Corrugated cement asbestos board.
Oh, that's fine.
That's what it was. That's absolutely what it was. Sunset Lanes, tops in quality, tops in location, 3-bedroom masterpieces. We're not messing around. This is a masterpiece. Everything you want in a contemporary home. Completely furnished show house. Open today and every day. And there it is. And that's my house, which is one of them. And you can see a lot of the similarities. I mean, these are on the drawing boards at the same time. They have no brick. There is no variation in material on the actual building itself. The houses are monolithic in their approach, just like Polivnick's own home. They utilize the same windows that are also in Polivnick's own home. And the floor plans are very, very clear. They have a big idea. Look at all the room. Prices start at $11,750. Thoughtfully constructed homes with family living in mind. Even this copy reads drastically different than what we just looked at. This is about thinking. You're marketing to regular people about the thought of this house? This feels like something maybe done by an architect. D&H Home Builders, and I'll tell you, Home Builders is a stretch. We find out that the crew that actually built these were concrete contractors. They were pouring sidewalks and driveways in other communities, actually in Harvey Park, at Arapahoe Acres, and others. So somewhere along the line, they must have said, gosh, we got to get in on this house. This home building. We can do a house. So this is an inexperienced client. And I believe allowing the architect to be the guide. And I think that's why these houses turned out the way that they did. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Sunnydale, 3 bedrooms, tile bath, 1,050 feet, hot water heat, and the finest construction you can find anywhere. Well, Mom, it is what I have always dreamed of. And the kids say, yep, and so close to school that we can walk. And the dog says, woof. Again, thoughtfully constructed homes, price of $11,750.
So he's holding a cigar, he's referring to his white at his mom.
Well, Mom.
No, I see some credit. So he's referring.
That sounds to be pieces.
Look how big Dad's head is too. He's way out of scale. And this was the result. D&H had already had purchased a number of lots. These homes here in this square are not part of Sunset Lanes. The homes, with all the funny turns and twists on these other 2 streets, are Sunset Lanes. You can see all the variety of atriums. The entire community, despite the fact that all these roofs sort of look different, are based on exactly the same floor plan. There's no variation. The only variety is achieved through orientation of the product. The roof plan doesn't change. Nothing changes. Siding profiles change from horizontal to vertical, 2 profiles of vertical. One is 2-inch vertical texture 111 grooved plywood. One is 4-inch T111. And then there is a plywood variation with battens applied. There are also 2 carport variations based on how the home is sited on the lot. Whether it wants to come in on a gable end or come in on the rake end of the roof, the overhanging side. So that provides a lot of variety as well. And you can see how that changes the shape, the footprint of the roof. Homes are turned to take advantage of the views, there are rather significant ones down here, which are still maintained due to this railroad easement right here. This is at 80th, and this is Raleigh, Westminster. And this is what the street scene actually looked like. This photograph came from an original owner about the time that they were moving in. This was his brother coming to look at the new home his brother had just purchased. You can see the elevation character and one of those A-trims and this great 50 Dodge. Here's another one. You can see the variety just simply by turning the floor plan and the different carports. So a carport shedding down off of the side. Here's the primary entrance. The entrance coming up this sidewalk is hidden by this wing. And now this house has no carport. And if you look here in this photograph, many of the initial homes don't have driveways because they don't have carports.
That was an old Volvo.
That's actually, yeah, rather interesting. This house was occupied, the original owner who recently passed away was Mr. Bob Biesk. And Mr. Biesk took ownership of one of the first Volvos in this country in, I think, 1957, which is when the slide is taken.
And Mr. Biesk was a local interior designer who worked for Hal Lipstein, the more famous Denver interior designer.
Who knew Polivnick? There's another shot of a very original home with its atrium filled in, but you can see the differences in the window packages based on the view and based on creating an interesting and varied street scene. All those same windows that we saw in even Polivnick's own home. What the interior of that space looks like. And when Adam showed me this advertisement with this drawing in it, I thought, oh yeah, that's what it, look how big the mountains are. Just and then I found out that's actually what they look like. Certainly at the time that this was drawn, you can see the open beam ceilings. There's that little square recessed can and all these crazy pony walls. And a really, really flexible interior arrangement that allows for flexible dining areas, adjustable light fixtures, things like that. This is what that space actually looks like inside. To reduce costs, these homes don't have tongue-to-groove ceilings. That's actually the same product as that's used on the exterior of the homes. That's T111 plywood, but it face down. Gives a pretty neat effect in a really cost-effective way. You can see that these ceilings are even conventionally framed. The rafters are on 24-inch centers. So they're spaced out a little bit further, but nothing particularly unusual, which certainly would have helped with reducing the cost. I also think that it's interesting. In the archives, we found writings where Polivnick was bemoaning the fact that the build quality in Colorado was so poor that they couldn't leave structural elements exposed to the interiors of spaces. These really, really cheap homes, he was able to do that. And I will tell you, this entire thing is framed by the carpenters with finished nails. Wow. That's all finished nails. This beam is
Question?
together with finish nails. Yes, Darryl.
You go back to that previous picture, that center beam looks like it has quite a bit of length to support all of that roof area.
They're 12 feet on center. And despite that's a good point, Daryl. Despite the fact that that beam is not very deep, because there is blocking between each one of the rafters above it, it increases the depth of the beam significantly. He also does this on the exterior of the homes and utilizes the fascias around the perimeter of the roof
Huh.
for portions of that load capacity. So he's able to reduce all of the beam size pretty significantly.
Okay, thank you.
A practical floor plan for family living. Again, he's preaching to architects here or something. Somebody is, I don't know. Or they're listening to an architect. We can see the same kinds of things that he was doing in the holiday homes with the clearly bisected floor plan. Bedroom wing and a living wing. All of these walls here between the kitchen and the living room are low. They're pony walls. This is what the space looks like.
Wow. Whose house is that?
Josh's.
That's your Josh's? Kind of pretty.
Thank you.
Josh added the extra flair of the building, the things. They
Yeah.
do not come with that.
I did.
This is what some of those bedrooms look like. So this is spaces inside of that pod, that bedroom pod. You can see the ganged windows that he utilizes, the perimeter heat. But look at some of this tidy little trim. That's only 1.5 inches. God, I can't even imagine saying, oh my God, the drywall guys are going to finish this drywall good enough. I only need to cover up 1.5 inches. Wow. Especially from a guy that was bemoaning the construction quality in a low-cost home. Some magic is happening.
Notice too that there's a hydronic heat. There's a radiator running along the floor there.
And that recessed can, which kind of would have been a big deal. in a low-
Sliding closet door,
And sliding closet.
Low
door.
height sliding closet.
oh, hi.
Finally. Wow. What those windows look like from the exterior, there's that crazy deep fascia that's carrying a lot of the load, helping to reduce the depth of the beams and carports and things like that. And what that atrium experience is like in my house, actually. A lot of big picture architecture for a very suburban or pedestrian kind of home.
Which unfortunately, except for Josh's now, every single one of those atriums has been closed up.
The fact that these are low cost and not brick means that you can run a circular saw through them. And most people didn't buy them because they were thoughtful. They bought them because they were cheap. The other atriums. Oops. Here. The variation that has the carport on the end of the home. The roofs are continued across just simply as open beams.
Pergola, basically.
You notice that even the pavement stops and only happens where the automobile parks. The rest of this is the landscape allowed to come in to this outdoor space.
And this house, if you want to go back for a moment, this house backs to that railroad right of way. So you can't see it in the photo, but there's a fantastic mountain view even today from the back of these particular homes.
And at that time, there was nothing there. Look at that. Nothing at all. You also notice that these homes are really rather tight together. This woman is over 100 years old and she is still living in the home by herself.
Is that a Mustang? I mean, a
56 Thunderbird. Yeah. It might be a 55 because it doesn't have the portal.
No porthole.
That's the same home. You can see with the garden coming into the back. This woman lives just down the street from her mother and she helps to help out.
She grew up in the neighborhood. worked a career in education, retired, and then moved back into the neighborhood to take care of her parents.
You can see that open beam situation, just the covering happening where the automobile parks, and then the atrium again at the front entry.
How they convince builders to do that? I mean, it's just open frame.
And there's no flashing. There's no flashing anywhere in these houses, actually.
Really?
What is interesting, though, is that these homes are what Polivnick called, or what the builder called, double insulated. So in a time when you weren't required to insulate any home, in a very low cost tract house, he's doing rock wool insulation in the walls and then 1-inch Celotex
Inches.
on the exterior. He didn't have to do any of it, but it was done. There's also copy about these houses talking about the weather control overhangs. So this house can be oriented anywhere on its site, have deep enough overhangs to shield the glazing. I think that's interesting that somebody's not only thinking about that, but it's being printed in the mid-50s.
How deep were the overhang?
They're part of the 4-foot grid. So at their nose, because the fascias are plumb cut at their nose, they're 3'8" because the inside of the grid is the inside wall.
That's a really deep.
Yes. And you can see it does shade those windows rather nicely.
What's the roof material made out of?
Tar and gravel.
Hmm.
And surprisingly, Daryl, my house still has the original tar and gravel roof.
Well, I have a low sloped roof like these, and it was originally gravel over here in Englewood. Yeah. And then the second owner put down shingles, got a variance from the city, and then I currently have a roll down asphalt granular. But the low slope can be a challenge to deal with.
I just noticed that you can actually see the insulation line on the roof.
So because those roofs are open on the
Yeah.
underside, the insulation is probably 3-4 inches of Celotex nailed down to the deck. And you can see the line that Adam's talking about that happens at the building envelope. So these houses actually are insulated in the ceiling, despite the fact that they're open underneath. And that's the same mom and
Jeez.
and there's that wonderful view from their backyard. Probably taken at the same time as the other photos were. That's the inside of the house. Wow. You know, it's funny that as these houses become more and more appreciated, anything of the modern, period, we sort of fetishized what these houses were. This is what these houses were. There's cake sitting here on the counter. There's a bunch of junk on the kitchen. The shelves are loaded, and this isn't some curated, beautiful tchotchkes here and there. That's stuff. They use it.
Glass milk bottle.
I love that the kid looks like she's, just having a cup of coffee.
It looks like, well,
Go west, young man. Enjoy happier, more modern living. Of course, from Florence, in these beautiful 3-bedroom homes at Sunset Lanes, Denver area's most ultra-modern community. A few basement homes left, GI and FHA terms. Drive north on Federal, turn west to Sunset Lanes. So most of the modernist communities that we have here in Colorado, really anywhere, they're not this big. There's 99 of these that were built. We know that this was a developer that didn't have a lot of experience. Most of the communities like this, there's 2 model homes, 3 model home village that's built. And they figure out that they actually can't sell them, despite the fact that there is a huge desire for product like this. this loan structure becomes a problem. It was very, very difficult to actually get the mortgage on these houses. And despite the fact that homes like this were incredibly low priced, the people that wanted these homes still needed the mortgage. These homes sat on the market, specifically Sunset Lanes, until 1956, 1957. So the houses are sitting there vacant. You got to imagine this poor concrete contractor thinks, oh my God, I just completely lost my ass on this thing. And he probably would have, except for the fact that he died.
Well, that goes in your ass.
So there, and we suspect that this was actually cancer. So did he just did he not know any better and thought this was a good idea, listen to a creative architect? Was there something like, well, I know I'm going to die in a couple of years and I'm just going to do this because I want to do it? Regardless, a rather large tract of modernist homes were built and Polivnick did on. So while things didn't go particularly well for Sunset Lanes, they definitely were starting to go rather well for Norton Polivnick. Norton Polivnick of Denver, secretary, right? He starts to get involved with the AIA in a big way. He gets involved with the community. Norton Polivnick was reelected president of the Council for Educational Television. Educational TV opens fundraising drives. This is about the time that he's doing the Sunset Lanes work, a goal of $50,000. I mean, this is unusual. Projects start to really come in, doing some pretty neat work. Here's a really wonderful church. I know it's still there, although I don't have any slides showing what it looks like right now, but a very beautiful design.
You notice how thin that roof line is?
Yes.
It is wildly thin.
Got it, 2 by 4.
I love the fact that this glue lamb bends and moves down, and the juxtaposition versus the clean cut of the siding. Real nice.
It's funny because we were having a bit of a debate on his other church in Hale Parkway, the Friendship Church, or now I'm blanking on what it was called originally. But the cross is also asymmetrical on that other church, and people thought that that was not intentional.
Okay, look at this asymmetry of coming along here. Look at the axes of this line hitting the left side of the front door. You're on axes with this cross, and then you shift over and walk through. And your feet are damn near touching these uprights. What an experience. There's a lot of thought here. Pure, beautiful work. Westminster United Presbyterian Church in Fort Collins. I have a nice picture of a model. Rather interesting planning. Very beautiful, really clean. I'd love to know what the shape of the sanctuary roof ended up being. The one that Bree was just talking about. Here it is, brand new, with no EPDM applied to this beautiful concrete. It's just concrete.
Creole electrical garbage and rating.
And look, there's a little Sunset Lanes house over here for the rest of this. The entries kind of push through. Beautiful sculptural thing.
It is way prettier just concrete.
And you can see it, you know, with the rest of the church school. It's really very neat compositional thing.
Is that the one on Hale Parkway?
Yeah, and that's so interesting that they clad the roof in in a metal shingle, but they
Is that metal?
members too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's slate, and I thought it was, unless it's slate shaped metal.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any natural light inside?
Yes.
Is it coming?
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Pretty neat. Used to.
You or what I was on the tour with. That was a question we had. Yeah.
yeah.
You know, you look at like out here, right? So this whole building's all cast in place concrete. Look at the texture on this. This is all cast in place too. Looks like it's painted though.
So where it attaches to the other building?
Is in the other side of this picture.
Glass. Oh. Well, that's what I'm thinking. This has to be the plate wall of glass has to
Oh
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
That's
ceiling
the
sloping in. I bet there must be some sort of source of natural light over there.
Well, it's coming at least. There's fake glass on that both side from that.
That doesn't
be just white.
Is it?
No, it does. Yeah, it's grown in a lot and they have a playground now.
Baume and Polivnick Architects. I can't read that, but it's a shopping center up in Greeley. And despite the fact that this picture looks good, we can see that it has 2 stories, maybe, I don't know. But he's doing a shopping center. Ranchy view of the new Brentwood Park Shopping Center. I don't know what a ranchy view is. The Beef Eater Restaurant. Other things like this. I mean, it has a lot of working out of this office. Kind of neat. These big drums. And of course, this is now Easy Pawn. Alan.
I don't know what it is now. It was an alpha pawn.
Alpha Pawn. What's that?
No.
Now Pawn.
On, okay, at least. Yeah, but,
It's the green and yellow pawn shop on Broadway.
oh, okay, yes. It's color coming to.
Lots of playful things. There's a Marcel Breuer restaurant up somewhere in Europe. I can't think of it off the top of my head. That's sort of clover leaf shaped, raised up on pilotis. That has kind of a similar nature to this.
You did that sign, is it still there?
Yeah. Davis Nursing Home Inc. Opening today. We're moving forward in time. January 26th is 64. Baume and Polivnick. This is the building. You know, we think of Eugene Sternberg as being kind of the person that's writing the books on senior living at this very moment. Polivnick is doing some higher density senior living with some kind of neat facilities, part of it. Hair shop, things like that, stuff that is engaging with the public. And you notice the building is all brick. It's similar to the brick that's around it. It's sort of a contextual kind of modern. I think even the folks that were studying at Bauhaus get this kind of wrap up, this beautiful white stuff. When you look at even Gropius's home, he thought of it as a modern interpretation of the antique homes in the Northeast, with vernaculars or materials that were appropriate to its place. And you start to maybe see that in some of this work. All the structure expressed, really, really beautiful. We can understand this building. Behind this screen block is all glazing. And at the ground level, this beautiful natural stone that kind of feels like it belongs with the earth. Blue Cross Shield to construct office building on University. Polivnick does a number of additions to hospitals, does a number of designs, doesn't end up getting awarded any of them, but starts to play in this world. The building was designed by Baume and Polivnick. You can see a lot of the same language that we just saw in the last building. I love that these shields are kind of like the signature mark in the corner, this big facade. Grand opening, York House, 2500 South York. A beautiful building, similar system. This express structure of these floor slabs, all the vertical columns, and the infill is brick. All of the balcony rails, however, are stained cedar. They're not that way anymore, which is really sort of a shame. I think it would have warmed up this building, but the experience inside is still rather neat. Look at this. What do you notice here?
Ceiling shroud. And he'll
From a
have
mechanical plenum underneath all of the concrete decks, but he holds it back. It's a curtain track. You get this. I mean, this. I mean, good grief. The sliding glass doors slid all the way to the wall. And of course, this is a ground level unit. So you get this massive expanded patio with big mature trees at this point in it. There's those little recessed cans. I hope he didn't drop the ceiling just for the cans, but I don't know. New student housing may be finished by fall of 60. Baume and Polivnick, brutal, blah, 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 blah. Western State College, student housing, 4 dormitories housing 452
Two names
students.
also.
That's a big, big part of this. We've got different partners. This was the first series of sketches for this particular project. Dormitories, this fun folded plate student union. And what the idea was here in 58, what the living experience might be for a typical apartment. I wish that was and that was the end result. Hello, Miss Vanderout.
Is that
But-
still there?
Yeah, but sadly, it has a mansard roof and a series of. It's been.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, they call it wasted state for a reason over there at Genesis, so maybe they just decided to waste buildings.
And while I made the comment about hello, Miss Vanderow, look at some of the unusual things here. Like the steel columns are outboard of the majority of the structure until it gets to the corners. The columns aren't celebrated.
With all due respect, this is not design.
Watch out.
That feels very, it also feels green, honestly, to your.
Greenwood's not here then.
Well, that would make sense because after this project,
True.
this is no longer, they leave the office.
We shall leave.
Yes. Beautiful space. I mean, gosh, this looks like a lounge.
What year was this then?
It was intended to be completed in 6. Looking to the sporties. Beautiful. And, that's the actual build version of the typical apartment unit there. Wonderful build-ins and stuff, but not quite what we saw in the initial.
Those looks like the cadet area to
Absolutely.
the Air Force Academy.
Beautiful, sophisticated spaces. So there we've got them, the whole gang. There's Mr. Polivnick. Middle, 4 Denver architects have pulled their talents in a new architectural partnership. And this was in 58. PSC to build a 12-story office. This is shortly thereafter, the Public Service Company of Colorado. Officially Saturday, it will build a $6 million 12-story office building. This came out in 58. The building would end up being completed and published in 1964 in Architectural Record, designed for controlled lighting. And of course, here's all 4 partners now. Beautiful build. Still there.
Hotel now.
The article goes on to talk at length about the controlled lighting effects and the severe light that we have here in Colorado, etc. And it notes the sculptural elements in the bathrooms, including this great cast fixture, the drinking fountains. But you can see this express structure and all the floor lines, all in stainless steel and the pink stone. And this fellow right here is Mr. Gas. Again, at the same time, Polivnick, 1963, right, is getting involved in a lot of different things. And Alan selected him to be a member of his committee at that time. And that's what that picture is from. Experts drawing up downtown Cooper. Architect added This guy. Do you remember him, Alex?
He was a good friend of mine.
National recognition for his design ability. In April, he was selected as one of 7 finalists in a national design competition for a proposed museum and art center at the University of California. He comes on and the firm starts to do a fair amount of master planning. But we still have to do the bread and butter work. Projects like this are still going on. University Hills South. It's just another shopping mall. And if I get further back, I might be able to read this. This is the architect's sketch of the newly announced University Hills South Shopping Center, which will border the existing University Hills Center to the south. Colorado Boulevard. That's still there. The air-conditioned enclosed mall, the University Hills South Shopping Center, is to look like this. That's interesting. Other projects that are going on as we move forward through time, which we recently got to walk. Fort Collins, this federal building, beautiful, cast in place concrete building, gorgeous L-shaped thing here. You know, at the same time that this is being done, you've got Marcel Breuer doing incredible concrete buildings that get recognized at a national level. And here's Polivnick doing similar kinds of things. Something that's interesting about these, though, is the adherence to the math of the grid. And this photograph doesn't show it very well. You might be able to make out that the windows are different sizes. The grid lines happen at all the primary structure and all of the secondary structure. He doesn't take math between the structure and divide it evenly. The outside windows of each one of these bays is slightly smaller. It's a very strong adherence to the math of the building. Discipline. Another major project for him is the Rocky Mountain Research Station, also up in Fort Collins. I don't know what's going on in here, but essentially an office building with a research facility, laboratories, I assume, and a beautiful entry sequence that takes us in there, but we can't go inside. This is one of Bree's photos showing this really very nice series of precast panels. Very, very beautiful and delicate. All of these ribs creating shadows. I'd imagine it's a pretty neat experience in there. And again, the same thing where the result of the math creates smaller windows on the ends of these bays. And a negative corner as he turns those panels. Beautifully, really beautifully detailed. Good thing one of his partners was a president of the Spec Writers Association.
Little detailer. Technical.
Skyline renewal plan. More of these big picture things that the office is getting involved with. Architecture West, of course. Youngly magazine devoted exclusively to Western architecture. August of '67. First stage urban design and development study. And there our guys are. This is the article as it was published in '67. Lots of great information talking about separating pedestrians here from automobile traffic, preserving elements of the historic city. I can see the drawing over here, Larimer Square. Really a neat and thoughtful concept.
This is Marvin from Tommy's Drawings.
And beautiful drawings. Wouldn't that have been a crazy city?
Whose drawings were they, Alec?
the partner at Tommy.
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe not. There's a signature there. I don't think it's his. May not be his.
So this is the last time that we hear about Polivnick. Accident. Norton Polivnick of Dillon was killed in a one-car accident at the west base of Rabbit Ears Pass Road Friday night. He died of a broken neck and internal injuries. According to the report of State Patrol Officer Michael J.K., the accident occurred 8.3 miles east of Steamboat on US 40 at 6:00 p.m. Polivnick was westbound, driving a 1969 Willys Jeep station wagon and run off the road on the right side. The vehicle rolled over one complete turn. The driver was ejected and then pinned under the Jeep when it came to a stop. Damage to the station wagon amounted to $1,300.
Get that.
I'm worried about it. Let the Jeep.
I don't know.
So what, I'm sorry, when did that happen again?
1973.
And at that time, he was living up, I think in either Dillon or
It said Dylan.
Dillon. So that's the last that we hear of him. There's no more publications after 1967. The work, I don't know what's going on with the rest of the partners. He does leave Denver. Following his death, obviously he's rather young. And life, its family that he left behind didn't take it very well. And much of his archive and his work from the office was destroyed by the family. The house was, they had already sold the house. So it had been modified multiple times since then.
it still stands today, but it's modified. I won't be on it.
His legacy really is sort of forgotten. It's just done. And, you know, I think that's what's the most interesting to me is that there's a lot of thought. There's a heck of a presence. He's doing educational television. He's heavily involved with the AIA and other organizations that are talking about the growth of our city. Seems like he's got a heck of a future and a heck of a presence at that moment. And then it's gone. And then we forget about it. And as we keep digging into this guy and seeing more and more work that he did, it seems like it's a name that we ought to be talking about a little bit more. I don't know if you have anything to add, Adam.
No, I think you covered it.
Thoughts, questions?
One ironic thing was that later on, Mucho had his office in the Green Bowers building.
Did he? Watch out there today. Autos.
I am pleased that we could still surprise Alan.
Yeah, I'm blown away by that. I mean,
It was a shock. No idea.
so we'll find out more about him as we go. I think there's probably more to find.
So he was living in Dillon at the time of the accident, but his family was down here.
No, they had moved up there. And actually, there's quite a bit of work up in the mountains.
Quite a bit of residential work he did.
Yeah.
Apparently the house that they lived in up there, he designed. Unfortunately, they gave me the address, but there's no street view of it, so I still don't know what it looks like. Josh and I need to take a field trip up there sometime.
Did you find out where he was from originally, or?
I don't remember off the top of my head. Back east. Yeah, I mean, but I don't make very I don't remember. Also, something of real of interest is during the early and mid 50s. So when they're doing all those production, the production stuff, he is in an unbelievable amount of articles in the Jewish newspapers, the schmooze column for a cocktail party. They were entertaining quite a lot. And
He also
there's a lot of information about that.
he also was heavily involved as a Harvard alum. I think he was like president of the alumni group or something like that.
I can't imagine that you open your office.
Likely. No, I'll just say that.
I can't imagine that you open your office in the following year, and for like the next 3 years, you get articles in Architectural Record. There's some connection.
Also,
You wonder.
also did a building at National Jewish Hospital.
Yes.
It was a one-story building. It was right on Colfax. I don't think it's there.
There was a fair amount of medical stuff he was getting involved with, and a number of additions, even pretty late. And there's a few office buildings I suspect are also his as well. But anyways. All right, okay. Well, do we have any other announcements before we adjourn? Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconds. All in favor, say aye. All meeting. All right, guys.